The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hello, good evening to all our listeners. A very warm welcome to the VAR Show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. The show also includes results, gossips, transfer rumors, controversies, statistics, facts, banter and much more. यहाँ अहिले यो show BFM 91.2 MHz मा सुनिरहनु भएको छ. यो show every Friday at 7 PM air हुन्छ हैन. You can also tune in through हाम्रो पात्रो app and also through www.bfm912.com. There are a lot of options. If you do not know how to use them, I'll just give you a briefing about it. So in Hamro Patro app, you can download through iOS or Android. Go to the Play Store or the equivalent of Apple and download the app, and then go to the radio sections. In the radio section, you can go and search bfm912.com, not .com, 912. So then 91.2, then you can play the show at 7 PM. Or else you can go to the website and you have a live radio going on every time. So whichever show you want to hear, you can go there. For our show, you have to go there at 7 PM on Fridays. So we have Sashi with us, who will be looking at the technical aspects of the show today. Thank you so much for being there, Sashi, because it's a very difficult time, and for you to come here and run it, thank you again. So what's in the show? Transfer, Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, TVS, songs, you name it, we have it. We also have interviews which we have started recently. So you'll be in for a ride today. On that note, we'll be playing our first song. So enjoy the song and I'll see you after the song.
Sometimes you're forced to make a choice. See the bet, raise the bet, or fold. Some may say it's the same in love, like banging your head against a wall.
Nothing
So welcome back to the first segment, and I hope you'll enjoy the song. The song was titled Bang My Head by David Guetta. It also featured Sia and Fetty Wap. So we'll move on to our interview segment, and today we have Head of Coach Education of Ireland, Mr. Neil O'Regan with us. So without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Neil for coming in the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
First of all, thanks very much for the invitation. Obviously, we're all experiencing lockdown and COVID-19, so currently working from home and have been for the last few months. And really, that's sort of created a new methodology in terms of delivering coaching and coach education online, which was something we didn't do prior to COVID. So there has been some positives taken from it, but it's a very difficult time. And I want to wish all of your listeners all of the best, and to them and all of those closest to them during this time.
Definitely, and before we move on to the main questions and the questions which will be much more interesting, I just had one very might be a very silly question. Did you always want to become head of coach education?
I think it's something that it was always an ambition in terms of I wanted to work at the highest levels of football, especially here in Ireland. Somebody that loved the game of football, played, never played at a high level because I didn't have the ability to play at the highest level, but always had a very good understanding and knowledge of the game, and that was something that was referenced to a lot of the top coaches. And I would have worked with a lot of very good coaches, for example, Mick Conroy, who would have played with Celtic, Liam Murphy, who would have played here or managed with Cork City. So a number of those influential people always identified that I had that understanding and reading of the game. So having a love of education and a love of football, it seemed to work well that my path took me this way. But you never know. I remember when the job came available, I was on honeymoon in Mexico in January 2016, and this job came up and I applied for it literally in a very relaxed state of mind and was delighted to get it. So you just don't know in football, when opportunities like this come up, you got to take them. And it's something that has been very enjoyable the last number of years.
Definitely. And on a personal level, do you coach any team right now?
At the moment in time, no. So sadly, that's one of the difficulties with my role, because of the volume of work that you're required to do in terms of mentorships and providing support, especially at the very high end at pro license level. You would spend a lot of time in the actual clubs with the coaches themselves. So we would go and spend 3 and 4 days. So we'd have a lot of international travel. So sadly, I don't currently at the moment in time get as much pitch time as I would like. And that's probably one of the most difficult parts of the job. I'm very lucky to have a phenomenal staff. And the staff that work for me are all practitioners because they're all underage international managers. So that was one of the really important things for me, that they could sharpen their skill set and make sure that they're delivering best practice, modern trends. And obviously Rue Doctor, who's our high performance director, is very influential in that, because it's so important to be living the game. Because as you well know, football evolves on a daily basis, and the game really evolves every other week. So you have to be in it to live it and experience it to have a good reference point.
Definitely. And I was very curious, as a coach educator, what is your main aim when you are given the opportunity to be in that position? What is your goal? What do you have to achieve?
The most important thing is, one, to have best practice standards. We here in Ireland have a player development plan, so we have a player-centred approach. So it's really important that everything that we do in terms of education, both for a player and for coaches, whether it be volunteer coaches or whether it be professional coaches, it's all about a consistent message. So it's really important for us to make sure that wherever we have players playing, that they're under the guidance and leadership of a coach who has a formal coaching qualification, because it's really important that we have a large percentage of our coaches, especially in the youngest ages, are volunteers. They're parents, their mums or dads who are giving up their time because their son or daughter, or they're living in the local club community and they're giving it up voluntarily. But they're the most important coaches, because the players age 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, they're the ones that which you have to make sure you give them the best connection to football. And it's really important that grassroots coaches, volunteer coaches, realise how important a role they play in ensuring in 20 years' time, when those players are still playing the game, love the game of football, it's because of that influence. So that's one of the major targets for us in coach education, is to give parents and volunteers the skill sets to deliver fun, enjoyable, challenging training sessions and managing matches in a way in which it encourages players to stay in the game.
Definitely, and I wanted to ask, the pandemic was of course unforeseen, but how much of it has played into your working ideology, like your program? How much of it has affected the program, and how have you changed it?
Yeah, it affected it significantly, because there's no way in hell anyone could have proactively prepared themselves for something as extreme as this. We are quite good in terms of long-term planning and looking at options in terms of delivery methods, and we have multiple delivery styles in terms of short contact, long contacts, weekends, middle of the week, evenings, where possible. We're very flexible, but the pandemic really just rocked us all. But in situations like this, where you have an extreme external factor, I always give the advice to take stock, calm, react slowly rather than fast. And we did that. We really spent 2-3 weeks brainstorming, okay, what's the best way to approach this? And we created a number of resources that we could utilize. We deliberately postponed some of our contact courses to later in the year. We introduced a coach educational newsletter, which would give free content to all of our coaches. We introduced weekly webinars, which were insightful in terms of different speakers every week that are practitioners, whether it be underage international managers, whether it be coaches, coach educators, guest speakers. And we're also currently working on the final steps of an e-learning pathway, where we will actually start to deliver courses online towards the end of this year. That was always a long-term strategy of ours, but obviously COVID has increased that, and it's now become a higher priority. So it's really about adapting to the new environment. Because people have so much time due to either being working from home or unemployment because of COVID, there is a real hunger for education and hunger for resources. So it's really important that we feed that and make sure that people have enough opportunities to take any learning they can from our webinars, our newsletters, our presentations, and any e-learning that we can, so that people, when they do get back into football, and we're slowly starting to get back into football, that they're well prepared to do so.
Definitely, and you have been previously been the coach education managers, and you would have worked on the different head of coach educations. What were the positives that you saw that you would like to continue, and what were the difficulties that you faced during your tenure previously?
Yeah, well, I suppose from my role in 2016, I came in with the title as coach education manager, and I worked really, really closely with the high performance director, Ruud Doctor. Ruud implemented a player development plan, and he's implemented significant changes in terms of underage national leagues at 13s, 15s, 17s and 19s. He's created a high performance unit in which all of the international managers and everyone within the department, player development, coach education and international football, work together. So I'm still working under Ruud. I've just been promoted from the role of manager up to the role of head of department, which means I get additional responsibilities in terms of running the coach educational aspect still under Ruud's remit. So really it's about the great opportunity for me over the last number of years has been the fact that Ruud is part of the UEFA Jira panel. So that panel is literally a group of the elite coaches throughout Europe that decide where next for UEFA in terms of the UEFA coaching convention. So having Ruud in such close proximity has been extremely valuable, because you get a great insight into his knowledge and experience. Ruud himself was only voted into the KNVB in the Netherlands Hall of Fame, which tells you the stature he has in his own country. So it's great to work with people that have such experience in the game and that have great connections. And for me, really, it's about, I always tell coaches, be sponges, take as much information as you can, learn as much as you can, and take every opportunity to take yourself out of your comfort zone.
On that note, we'll take our first break. Okay, the interview is going very interestingly, and personally I'm enjoying it a lot. I hope you're enjoying it too. And before we move on to the break, we'll play a song titled Lovers in the Sun by David Guetta featuring Sam Martin. What is happening today? So many David Guetta songs. So nonetheless, enjoy the song, and I'll see you after the break.
light it up, let's light it up until our hearts catch fire. Then show the world a burning light that never shines so bright. We'll find a way to keep the cold night from breaking in over the walls into the wild side. The hunger satisfied. We're burning up. We might as well be lovers on the soul. We might as well be lovers on the soul. We might as well be lovers on the soul. We'll never know what stands behind the door. But I got a feeling, it's a feeling that's worth dying for. Just close your eyes and hold your breath because it feels right. We'll keep it moving till we make it to the other side. And let's enjoy the ride.
टाइल्स, मार्बल, ग्रेनाइट, सिबी फिटिङ्स, बाथवेयर र सेनेटरीका लागि पूर्वाञ्चलमै पहिलो एक्सक्लुसिभ शोरूम रोयल मार्बल अब विराटनगरमा। रोयल मार्बल प्राइभेट लिमिटेड, हाम्रो अस्पताल अगाडि एयरपोर्ट मोड, 021 460 231 र 98 017 083 33।
रोयल मार्बल, एक्सपिरियन्स द रोयल लिभिङ। अब मेरो नयाँ साथी हेलो टु भेनस स्किन एन्ड हेयर ट्रान्सप्लान्ट क्लिनिक, कोशी अञ्चल अस्पताल उत्तरपट्टि, एमआर डायग्नोस्टिक भवनको दोस्रो तल्ला, विराटनगर। 9810 55 0 316 www.venus.com.np। अब बन्ने होइन त एक्स्ट्रा अर्डिनरी।
भाटभटेनी सुपर स्टोरको ट्राफिक सचेतना।
मोटरसाइकलमा 3 जना चढी यात्रा नगरौं।
मोटरसाइकल चलाउँदा सदैव हेलमेटको प्रयोग गरौं।
जथाभावी बाटो काट्ने र ओभरटेक गर्ने जस्ता कार्य नगरौं।
सवारी साधन चलाउँदा सवारी साधनका कागज पत्र दुरुस्त राखौं। सवारी साधन तोकिएको स्थानमा रोकी यात्रुलाई चढाउने र ओह्राल्ने गरौं।
सवारी साधनको प्रयोगका बेलामा मोबाइलमा कुरा नगरौं।
ट्राफिक नियमको पालना गरौं, सभ्य नागरिकको परिचय दिउँ।
जिल्ला ट्राफिक कार्यालय मोरङको समन्वयमा भाटभटेनी सुपर स्टोरद्वारा जनहितमा जारी।
खुसीको खबर, अब विराटनगरमै पहिलो पटक दाँत सम्बन्धी सम्पूर्ण उपचार अत्याधुनिक उपकरणबाट।
त्रिभुवन विश्वविद्यालयका गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट डाक्टर पवन मेहताद्वारा अब लोक सेवा डेन्टल क्लिनिक विराटनगरमा अत्याधुनिक उपकरणबाट दाँत सम्बन्धी सम्पूर्ण समस्याको उपचार गरिन्छ। तपाईँ पनि सम्झनुहोस्।
स्तरीय, सर्वसुलभ र भरपर्दो उपचारका लागि लोक सेवा डेन्टल क्लिनिक विराटनगर 5 बरगाछी।
सम्पर्क 9807 24 167 9807 24 167।
तपाईँलाई थाहा छ आज मैले गेममा के गरेँ? अनि मैले त्यहाँ हेलिकप्टरबाट जम्प गरिदिएँ अनि म दुश्मनको टाउकोमा टेकेर पहाडमाथि चढेँ अनि दुश्मनहरू मेरो
तपाईको अकाउन्टमा पर्याप्त ब्यालेन्स छैन।
चाहेर पनि मनभरिका कुरा गर्न सकिएन? चिन्ता नगर्नुस्, लिनुस् एनसेलको एन्डलेस कुराकानी प्लस प्याक। कर बाहेक मात्र रु 75 प्रति हप्तामा हरेक दिन पाउनुहोस् 100 मिनेटको टक टाइम। अब मन खोलेर कुरा गर्नुहोस्। साथै 15 दिने र 30 दिने प्याकहरू नि उपलब्ध छन्। आजै एन्डलेस कुराकानी प्लस प्याक खरिद गर्न *17118 *7 डायल गर्नुहोस्।
आहा, कति राम्रो गहना कहाँ किनेको?
यो सब अमन ज्वेलर्सको कमाल हो नि। यहाँ असल सुन चाँदीको तयारी गरगहना राशि रत्न रुद्राक्ष पाउनको साथै अर्डर बमोजिम ग्यारेन्टीका साथै तयार गरिन्छ। तपाईँ पनि नयाँ डिजाइनको गरगहनाहरू चाहनुहुन्छ भने अमन ज्वेलर्सलाई सम्झिनुहोस्।
अमन ज्वेलर्स, राम जानकी पथ, विराटनगर 1। प्रोप्राइटर बब्लुजी। 98421 26740 98420 45765।
लगन जुरौ खर्चम गरौ न।
कहाँ राख्छौ केले पाल्छौ मलाई सुनाउ न।
कालजोबाना चिनेको छु युबो ट्र्याक्टर किनेको छु कमजोर पठाना युबोसँग भर पछु आधुनिक खेती गर्छु धन्दैन मान।
हरेक किसानको तागत युबो ट्र्याक्टर, पावरफुल र दमदार इन्जिन, 3 रिभर्स र 12 फ्रन्ट गियर भएको, अत्याधुनिक हाइड्रोलिक्स लगायत तीव्र गति र अत्यन्तै छिटो काम गर्न सक्ने इभो ट्र्याक्टरले ल्याउनेछ कृषिमा क्रान्ति। महिन्द्राको युभो ट्र्याक्टर 2 व्हीलर र 4 व्हीलर का विकल्प सहित 15 हर्स पावर देखि 70 हर्स पावर सम्मको रेन्जका साथ विभिन्न आकर्षक मोडलहरूमा उपलब्ध छ। सम्पर्क अग्नि इन्कर्पोरेटेड प्राइभेट लिमिटेड, मुनालपथ, विराटनगर। फोन नम्बर 021 503 457 503 479। गुणस्तरीय सर्भिसिङ तथा जेन्युन पार्ट्सका लागि हाम्रो टोल फ्री नम्बर 9801 71214 मा सम्पर्क गर्नुहोला।
तपाईको एफएम हर पल तपाईको साथी। BFM 91.2
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Definitely, and like I just wanted to touch that part. Okay, you said like you generally advise coaches to be like sponges and observe how much ever. That is a very good ideology. But do you think that happens? Like, do you think that coaches take that into consideration?
I think that some coaches do. I think some coaches fall into the trap of thinking that time is their most valuable resource and they prioritize the wrong things. I think the reality is that we work off an ethos of lifelong learning, and we always say to coaches that no matter what, it is always still a game. No matter how much money is involved in the game, there's a business side to it, but it is still a game. It's not life or death. You're not going to be a surgeon on a table, so you have to take time for yourself. And a lot of coaches don't do that. A lot of coaches burn out because they focus so much on having to win, having to get everything done correctly, perfectly, and there is no perfect session, there is no perfect coach. The reality is those coaches that manage themselves and manage their time and actually take time to learn, to develop and enhance their skills and surround themselves with other experts and delegate. That's the key for the successful managers at the highest level, is that ability to delegate responsibility. Because sometimes when young enthusiastic coaches come in, they try and do everything and they want to control everything because there's no malice in what they're doing, but they just want it to be done perfectly. They want it to be done to the best of their ability. And instead of taking the risk of delegating it to somebody else, they try and do everything themselves and either end up burning out or end up burning relationships because they don't give enough responsibility to their staff. So it's really important that from the outset, for any coach that's ambitious and wants a career in the game, they have to learn how to balance that work-life balance, the home-life balance, and really identify and have a very clear focus in terms of self-development. Short, long, medium-term strategies, what do they want to do, personal improvement goals, and all the time, education is the key to that.
Definitely, and like I wanted to touch on one thing, like, due to the advancement of technology, nowadays coaches can learn from probably everywhere and anywhere, all over the world. So, like maybe if you go back, maybe 15, 20 years back, maybe the nation's FA, whatever they provided for the coaches, that was the only thing available for them to learn and probably increase their knowledge. But now it's the world is a small place. So do you think like you have to be very inclusive of different ideologies all around the world when you are preparing sessions or maybe licenses for them?
Yeah, 100%. And this is where we have a player-centered approach, and football in itself is a language amongst itself. So we really have an excellent insight into having coaches from all over the world. Only recently, in the last 12, 18 months, we've had coaches from Guam, we've had coaches from the US, from Canada, from throughout Europe, from China. So we're very open in terms of the fact that the game is the universal reference point. So football in itself is that language that we all can speak about. And what we do in terms of coach education is we provide each individual with an individual learning plan. And it's really important that the context and the environment to which a coach is working is really key. I do believe in the past there may have been an attempt to sort of do a one shoe fits all, where everybody was treated the same and you had to pass or fail a certain test, and if you didn't do it in a certain way, then it wasn't acceptable. That's no longer the case. Everything we do now in modern trends in education is about formative and summative, a balanced approach to assessment where it's nearly continuous from the point that you enter the course to the point that you leave. Have you demonstrated an increased level of competence in all of the aspects of what's required of you? So it's really about, there isn't a thing where you come into the environment and you're told you have to do it this way. It's all about you in your own context, in your own environment, being able to develop the skills that are required, the competence level that is identified within the course, and you being able to take that in reality back to your own environment. Because in the past, there may have been scenarios where people would do a course, they'd complete the course and they'd forget what they did on the course the minute they went into their own environment. That's not what it's about now. No, it's a direct transfer. Everything that you do in the course has to be transferable to your own environment. Otherwise, it's not valuable. And if it's not valuable, then it's not worth doing.
Definitely. And from your answer, okay, what I could infer, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If a coach from Nepal wants to go to Ireland and do his coaching badges, is he allowed to?
Yes, so there is freedom of movement throughout UEFA in terms of the UEFA Coaching Convention, which is easily accessible on UEFA's website. But outside of that, we would have a percentage ruling in terms of coaches wishing to come into our country, wanting to complete our educational programs. We would require support from their own federation. So there is a cross-border reference form where you'd literally complete a form with the support of your own federation in terms of identifying that you wanted to complete a course in Ireland because you wanted the possibility of working in Ireland, or there is a job opportunity, or you're moving to Ireland, or you wanted to complete a course through English, or you want to broaden your working environment in terms of your connections. So there are opportunities for coaches internationally to come in and do their education. We always encourage coaches to try and experience their own education in their own country, because that's the most reality-based to their own environment. But it's obviously invaluable to do stuff out of your own country. I myself did the pro license in Northern Ireland, which is part of Great Britain, to give myself an external learning opportunity rather than doing the course within the FAI ourselves. And there was huge value to that, because you brought in different networks, you met new people, you're challenged as a student in a different environment. So there's huge value to traveling around the world and experiencing different cultures, different approaches and different ethos in terms of the game of football.
So it is time to take a, I think, second break, and before the second break we'll play a third song, and you have guessed it correct. Again, it's another David Guetta special, and it's titled Hey Mama, featuring Nicki Minaj and Afrojack. So enjoy the song. Today's, it looks like a David Guetta special. So I'll see you after the song and after the...
अब आफ्नो 15 नजिकपन साथ साथमा होइन सामाजिक दूरीमा नापौं।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज आफ्ना विद्यार्थी मात्र होइन, यहाँ सम्पूर्णको स्वास्थ्य जीवनको कामना गर्दछ।
कोभिड-19 बाट आफू र अरूलाई बचाउने एउटै उपाय हो सामाजिक दूरी। यसका लागि पारिवारिक सामाजिक समारोह नगरौं। भिडभाड र आम्ने सामने हुँदा सरकारद्वारा निर्देशित नियमको पालना गरी सामाजिक दूरी कायम गरौं।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेजद्वारा जनहितमा जारी।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज एमबीए र बीबीए अध्ययन परामर्शका लागि सम्पर्क 98 424 07 517। उत्कृष्ट बीबीए र एमबीए का लागि जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज।
मानिस हराएको सूचना। गहुँको र बडको उचाइ 5.6 फिट, तौल 70 केजी, पातलो शरीर भएको, कालो स्वेटर पेन्ट भेस्ट लगाएको, वर्ष 45 का, सुनसरी गढी 4 का अशोक पाल नाम गरेका व्यक्ति 15 महिना अगाडिदेखि हराइरहेको हुँदा फेला पार्नुहुने महानुभावहरूले नजिकैको प्रहरी कार्यालय वा श्रीमती फुलदेवी पाललाई 98 17 37 45 39 मा सम्पर्क गरिदिनु हुन अनुरोध छ।
अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिकमा अब दन्त चिकित्सा सेवा सुरु।
50 वर्षभन्दा लामो समयदेखि स्वास्थ्य सेवा पुर्याउँदै आएको अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिकमा अब विशेषज्ञ डाक्टरद्वारा अत्याधुनिक प्रविधि युक्त दन्त सेवा सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ।
टुथपट, पेडियाट्रिक एन्ड फ्यामिली डेन्टल सेवा। अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिक, आदर्श टोल, अतिथि सदन पछाडि। सम्पर्क 98 18 62 63 01 021 512 811।
नेपाल में पहिल बेर एनसेल लौलक्या वायर फ्री प्लस घर तथा ऑफिस के कोनो कोना में एक समान चला वाला एक तार विहीन इंटरनेट www.ncell.azieta.com/wirefree+ पर जाओ, वायर फ्री प्लस खरीद करू अब पाओ भरोसगर वाईफाई संगे 60 GB वायर फ्री डाटा, 10 GB सिम डाटा और अन्य डिजिटल सेवा सेवा गजब के कम्बो। वार्षिक अग्रिम भुगतान पर टैक्स के अलावा मात्र 690 रुपया से शुरू। त्यहाँ आप वाईफाई बनत सस्ता नीक भरोसगर। अधिक जानकारी के लिए 9008 डायल करू।
कोरोना भाइरस कोभिड-19 विरुद्ध धनपालथान गाउँपालिकाको अभियान।
नआत्यौं, उच्च सतर्कता अपनाऊ। साबुन पानीले नियमित रूपमा हात धुने बानी बसालौं। हात अनुहारमा नलैजाऊ, भिडभाडदेखि टाढै बसौं। सरकार र स्वास्थ्य कर्मीले भनेको मानौ।
धनपालथान गाउँपालिका मोरङ।
हार्दिक बधाई, हार्दिक बधाई, हार्दिक बधाई। वाइवाई जिंक हरर स्कुटरमा सरर। वाइवाई जिंकमा जीत उपभोक्ता उपहार योजना अन्तर्गत स्कुटर जित्न सफल धरान 15 सुनसरीकी सुश्री सुप्रिया श्रेष्ठलाई हार्दिक बधाई।
वाइवाई जिंकमा जीत एभर स्वादिलो वाइवाई जिंक जिंक हरर स्कुटरमा सरर। वाइवाई जिंक।
विराटनगरमै पहिलो पटक लेजर प्रविधिद्वारा शरीरका अनावश्यक रौँ हटाइने क्युटिस केयर क्लिनिक,
जहाँ डाक्टर वन्दना झाद्वारा छाला, नङ, कपाल र सम्पूर्ण सौन्दर्य सम्बन्धी उपचार गरिन्छ।
अब हरेक दिन अझ बढी आत्मविश्वास।
क्युटिस केयर क्लिनिक, विराटनगर 13 रानी, विराटनगर आँखा अस्पताल सँगै। विस्तृत जानकारीका लागि 98 27 073 958।
BFM 91.2 सुन्दै जाऊ, BFM 91.2 सुनाउँदै जाऊ।
Definitely, and like I wanted to ask another question, okay, and that is that is striking my mind a lot now. So it's like you have been in the industry for quite a while, and what is the biggest flaw that you have seen with young coaches?
I think the biggest flaw with young coaches can sometimes it can be a positive in one instance because they're very enthusiastic, but the issue with a lot of young coaches are there's not as much patience as what is required to survive in the game. And everybody really wants to try and get to the end of the journey immediately. So in coach educational terms, you would see people trying to do their UEFA C, UEFA B, UEFA A, UEFA Elite Jude, UEFA Pro in a very short period of time. And really what that does is it just gives you a qualification that really you're not going to be able to put into practice because you won't have gained the experience required. I look at myself as a personal reference. Mick Conroy, who was a great mentor of mine, former Celtic player and a huge influence in football where I'm from here in Cork, and he always said to me, when you finish your coaching badge, you need to put into practice your learnings and you need to make the mistakes at that level so that when you do decide to go to the next stage that you're ready for it. And I myself I did the UEFA B license in 2006. I did the UEFA A license in 2011, and I did the pro license in 2017. So there was 5-6 years in which it gave me the opportunity to really hone my skills on the pitch, challenging myself, dealing with players, dealing with conflicts, making sure that when I went into those environments, I was ready to do so. So I think it's important for young coaches to be ambitious. It's important for them to want to get to the next step, but you can't beat having a knowledge experience balance in terms of getting the knowledge on the course and then implementing that knowledge and gaining the experience that you can only get with time.
Definitely. And another, I want to touch on another topic which is quite controversial these days, and it's like many of the former players have been fast-tracked into coaching and getting the badges done early, which has not panned out well many a times. It has panned out well many a times too. What is your viewpoint on it? Should they be fast-tracked, or should they be follow the normal structure that any other coach would?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note that sometimes the word fast-tracked is used without a clear reference in terms of what it is. So, for example, a professional player with over 5 years playing experience would enter at a later point in our coach educational pathway because of the knowledge and experience that they have. So, for example, a grassroots coach might end up having to do 3-4 years of grassroots education to try and get them to a similar knowledge set. Because when you're living in an environment, when you're in a football club as a player, as a coach in a full-time capacity, it is your life and you gain invaluable amounts of hours. While if you're only coaching 3-4 times a week for 2 hours, you're never going to catch up without those years of experience. So really it's about making sure that wherever they enter, it's at a competency level that's relevant to them. And then the most important thing is that they, again, get the time. And within UEFA's coaching convention, it is difficult to fast track, as in allowing people going to a level that they're not required to do. So I think a lot of the times there's frustrations from coaches that are outside of that environment that see former professional players possibly entering at a level where they haven't done anything else, but everything that they've done in the game provides them with an experience or knowledge. And that's the same in anything. Like, there's a number of people who could go into a master's in education based on life experience. So based on their area of expertise, if somebody has lived in a certain industry for 20 years, they wouldn't have to go back and do a degree. They can get an entrance competency level. So it's really about best practice. The most important thing for me, and we've had a phenomenal number of former internationals only in our recent courses, and each of them have gone on through the pathway the exact same as everybody else with the mandatory time in between. And it's really benefited them because it's all about making sure that when you do get the job, you're ready for the job. And it's a very, very difficult job. I think at the moment in time, the lifespan of a Premier League or of a manager in the British leagues is just over a year and a month, which is a very short period of time. And if you don't get to 70 odd games in your first job, there's over a 90% chance you don't get a second job. So it's really about making sure that when you do decide to take a job, that it's the right one for you. But there's definitely great examples of former pros who've been proactive. And I think this is the best advice that you can give professional players. Start your learning, start the educational part of your football early. So in your mid-20s, 24, 25, in the peak of your career, start being proactive and start doing your badges sooner so that it'll allow you make sure that when you do retire, you have that natural transition into a coaching role.
So on that note, we need to take our last break. Before the break, we'll play a song. This is the fourth song of the evening, and I think you have guessed it by now. It's again a David Guetta special, and it's titled Shot Me Down, featuring Skylar Grey. So enjoy the song, and hopefully next week we don't have any David Guetta, or maybe even the last song, maybe a David Guetta. Keep guessing. We'll see you after the break.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white. He would always win the fight. Bang, bang. He shot me down. Bang, bang. I hit the ground. Bang, bang. That awful sound. Bang, bang. My baby shot me down. made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white. He would always win the fight. Bang, bang. He shot me down. Bang, bang. I hit the ground. Bang, bang. That awful sound. Bang, bang. My baby shot me.
ओहो शिला, धेरै दिनपछि भेट भयो नि। पहिलेको भन्दा तिमी त निकै फेरेछौ।
ए हो र, जबदेखि मैले खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल प्रयोग गरे तबदेखि नै म स्वस्थ छु र मेरा परिवार पनि स्वस्थ नै छन्। त्यसैले म तिमीलाई पनि अलि महँगो भए तापनि यही खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गर्ने सल्लाह दिन्छु।
त्यसो भए म पनि आजदेखि यही खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गर्छु।
हजुर, 2 दशकदेखि उपलब्ध हुँदै आएको उही हाम्रो खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गरी ढुक्क हौ।
विश्व शिखरको फेरि सप्तकोशी मुहान, छाती बनेर हाँसा इलामको बगान, मिथिलाको सभ्यता सप्तकोशीको नाम बन्दैछ आज उही पूर्वको अर्को सिमेन्ट सप्तकोशी गौरव बनिरहेछ, विकासको बाटोलाई सधैँ कोरिरहेछ।
सप्तकोशी ओपिसी सिमेन्ट, पूर्वको गौरव।
आयो फेरि आयो हे बागमती प्लास्टिक, गाउँ सहर सबैको घर घर बागमती प्लास्टिक। हो यो गौरव नेपालको प्लास्टिकका सामानहरूमा सबैभन्दा पहिलो, कहिल्यै नटुट्ने कहिल्यै नफुट्ने बागमतीका राइनो ब्रान्डका प्लास्टिकका सामानहरू तपाईहरुको चोक बजारमा फेरि आयो है। राइनो अनब्रेकेबल।
एन्टेना फाउन्डेसन नेपालको प्रस्तुति नेपाल चौतारी।
7 दिन 7 सवाल।
घरमै बसेर पनि 3-3 महिनाको स्वत प्रकाशन गर्ने विवरण, त्यो त आफ्नो आफ्नो शाखाको आफ्नो आफ्नो जिम्मेवारीको कुरा त घरमा बसेर पनि त्यो प्रस्तुत गर्न सकिन्छ र त्यो सूचना भित्तामा टाँस्न सकिन्छ।
हामी सामाजिक रूपले अलग भएको छैनौँ, टाढा भएको छैनौँ, भौतिक रूपले असामान्य परिस्थितिमा केही समय टाढा भएको।
हामी कहाँ लागेको लकडाउन भनेको चाहिँ यो हेल्थ इमर्जेन्सीलाई चाहिँ कन्ट्रोल गर्न, जुन संक्रमक रोग ऐन अन्तर्गत लागेको अवस्थामा चाहिँ कुनै पनि सूचना प्रवाह गर्ने दायित्वबाट चाहिँ स्टेटले पन्छिन चाहिँ पाउँदैन।
धारामा पानी खान पनि दिएनन्, गाउँको बाटो हिँड्न पनि दिएनन्, बास बस्न पनि दिएनन्, खाना पकाएर खान पनि दिएनन् भन्ने जुन कुराहरू आयो नि, त्यो हामीले यही सामाजिक दूरी कायम गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने जुन शब्दले निर्माण गरेको एउटा मनोविज्ञान थियो कि मान्छेलाई टाढा राख भन्ने कुरा।
स्थानीय रेडियो, हाम्रो पात्रो, एन्टेनाको वेबसाइट र सोशल मिडियामा हरेक बिहान 8:15 बजे देशैभरि एकैसाथ नेपाल चौतारी।
प्रसारण सहकार्य
ब्रोडकास्टिङ एसोसिएसन अफ नेपाल बाङ।
कसरी बढाउने
नवजीवन सँगै जिङ चक्की खुवाउने किनकि 5 वर्ष मुनिका बच्चालाई पखाला लाग्दा नवजीवन सँगै जिङ चक्की खुवाउँदा बच्चाको पखाला चाँडो निको हुन्छ।
त्यसैले नेपाल सीआरएस कम्पनीद्वारा वितरित नवजीवन र जिङ चक्कीको कम्बी प्याक नवजीवन जिङ प्लस आजै घरमा लिएर आउनुहोस्। नवजीवन जिङ प्लस झाडा पखाला माइनस।
यो माटो नै हो सान, माटो नै अभिमान, मातृभूमिको यो माटोलाई छ मेरो सलाम। जगदम्बा जगदम्बा यही माटोमा जन्मिए, यही माटोमा कर्म गर्नु छ, नझुकी यही माटोमा देशको स्वरूप बदल्नु छ।
कसम छ यो मातृभूमिको, साथ छ मलाई मेरो जगदम्बा सिमेन्टको।
मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा,
मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा सिमेन्ट।
हरेक प्रहर हरेक सहर हरेक गहन तिम्रै छ नाम। BFM सुन्छु म सधैँ रमाउँछु, यो हो हाम्रो रेडियो, यो हो हाम्रो रेडियो।
Definitely, and okay, I'll move on to the next part, and it is like many of the clubs have started incorporating throw-ins, as like a professional coach. Are you planning to incorporate this in your future works, or you have already done it?
Well, we've looked at that in terms of, obviously Liverpool have been one of the most successful clubs in terms of introducing a throw-in coach, and they've reaped the benefits of going from literally one of the worst teams in the Premier League in relation to retaining the ball, in relation to throw-ins, to being the best. It's something that we believe that coaches need to have an understanding of, and we believe that there may not be the necessity to have an individual coach that's specialising in that field, but you certainly would want to have one of your staff members aware of it. We would put huge significance in terms of restarts, so corner kicks, free kicks, even starting the game off with your kick-off, your goal kicks, how your players set up, what's the organisation of your team, what's the logical sequence in terms of your attack, how you're going to plan to build up. So it's really important that throw-ins are just a part of that parcel. They're included in what you're doing there, because obviously if you look at it over the last number of years, the corner kicks, free kicks, the amount of goals from set plays, from restarts are significant. So it's really important in the modern game for coaches to be aware of that and to delegate that responsibility to a staff member.
Of course, and in your opinion, what is or are the most important attributes that a coach should possess? A young coach who's just starting out.
I think it's really important that they have a very clear reference. I think Raymond Verheyen has really identified that in the football coach evolution model that he has created. He has a number of books that are excellent references and readings. And I think for a young coach, what that does is it gives them a universal football action language. It's a very clear reference point that they can then work within that reference. The subjectivity of their personality, of their characteristics, of their teaching and coaching styles comes alive within that. But by having a clear reference point, it ensures that communication from the outset is very consistent and very clear. I think for young coaches, it's really important to develop your ability to manage and player manage, individual manage, and have the skill set to man manage, woman manage, whichever it may be, the industry that you're in. But it's so important to have that capacity to work with individuals. And the most important thing for all coaches is to realise their people first and players second. So don't forget the personal aspect in terms of their family, in terms of making sure they feel valued, making sure they feel connected to you, and that's really important.
Definitely. And do you think, in your opinion, that a coach should travel and coach in a lot of countries so that he or she gets a wider perspective of the game?
100%. I think that's one of the most enjoyable aspects of my own job currently, is the amount of travel and the amount of clubs that I've gotten to visit over the last number of years, and being in those environments and seeing the consistencies and also seeing the differences between cultures, between religion, between cities and counties, between geographical locations, between population sizes, between cultures. It's absolutely fabulous, because the game of football is universal wherever you go in the world, but it gives you a great insight and connection to people immediately, because if you love the game here, or you love the game in Nepal, or you love the game in Afghanistan or China, it doesn't matter, we all love the same game. So it's a great opportunity that gives you an immediate start point in terms of building a relationship or a connection. I think what it does also is it broadens your horizon to the fact that if you have aspirations to work at the highest level, having additional languages, even bare minimum being able to speak or understand terms or basic language, is so important. And also being able to understand the cultures, because you could walk into a dressing room of 20 professional footballers and you might have 10 different countries or nationalities within that environment. So the more experience you get to travel, I always encourage people to travel as much as they possibly can. How that'll look like with COVID-19, whether there will be a fear of travel now, I hope that doesn't happen. I think once we get a vaccine, we'll hopefully return to the freedom of movement we've been experiencing in the last number of years.
Definitely. And on that note, Neil, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me, and I wish you all the best for whatever ideology that you're implementing with the national setup, and I hope everything of what you have planned comes out, and you leave a good legacy behind for the future coaches, and hope we can talk again soon. Take care, stay safe, bye.
Take care, thanks very much.
So on that note, today we have to end the show, and because our time is going to be up, and before we leave, we'll play a song titled Takeaway by the Chainsmokers, and also it features Illenium. So we'll meet you next week, and by then even the Champions League quarterfinals will be over, and I hope you're enjoying the Champions League this season, because it's a one-leg tie now from now onwards. So enjoy the Champions League, and I'll see you next week, same day, same time. Have a good evening and a good weekend. Stay safe. Do not go out. Mental and social distancing, that's the normal. I think you all have been used to by now, and I hope you'll follow it. So take care. Namaste. Adios.
You have for takeaway, You have for takeaway, You have for takeaway, You have for takeaway.
Hey, 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 where do you think you're going? It's so late, late, late. What's wrong? I said I can't stay. Do I have to give a reason? It's just me, it's what I want. So how do we get here? 3 weeks now, we've been so caught up. Better if we do this on our own. Before I love you, I'm gonna leave you, before I'm someone you leave behind, I'll break your heart so you don't break mine. Before I love you, I'm gonna leave you,
have for